Imagine stone cities rising within the dense jungles of Central America 1,000 years ago. A civilization that calculated astronomy with near-modern accuracy, independently developed the concept of zero, measured time in cycles, and placed the sky at the center of political decisions. Yet at the same time, a society remembered for blood rituals, deadly ball games, and a mysterious collapse. The Maya were far more than just pyramids. They were an intellectual power that built advanced calendar systems, recorded the movements of Venus, carved the history of their kings into stone using hieroglyphic writing, and experienced a decline that is still not fully understood today. In this video, we will examine the Maya civilization through 8 critical themes. From how they measured time and used zero, to their astronomical precision, human sacrifice rituals, the deadly Pok-ta-Pok game, their writing system, and ultimately why their great cities were abandoned. If you want to see both the scientific brilliance and the darker side of a civilization, let's begin. When the Spanish reached Central America in the 16th century, most of the great Maya cities had already been abandoned. Over time, nature took over the stone structures, tree roots crept between the pyramids, walls were covered in vines. For centuries, people believed the Maya were a civilization made up of small, scattered villages. But the truth was hidden beneath the forest canopy. When Tikal was rediscovered in the 19th century, archaeologists saw massive temples rising from the jungle. But that was only the beginning. During the Classic period, AD 250 to 900, Maya cities were true metropolises. Cities like Calakmul and Tikal contained hundreds of monumental structures. Pyramids exceeding 60 meters, royal palaces, ball courts, astronomical observation structures, ceremonial plazas. These cities did not grow randomly, they were planned. At the center stood religious and political structures, surrounded by the residences of the elite. In the outer zones were agricultural areas and the living spaces of common people. And then there were the white stone roads connecting the cities. These roads were called sakbe. Stretching for kilometers, these elevated causeways formed a political and economic network. This was no longer just a civilization, it was a system of cities. For years, researchers underestimated the population of Maya cities because it was unclear how many structures lay hidden beneath the forest. That is, until the 21st century. LiDAR, light detection and ranging technology made it possible to digitally remove the forest canopy using laser pulses sent from aircraft. In 2018, large-scale LiDAR surveys conducted in Guatemala's Petén region revealed over 60,000 previously unknown structures. Terraced agricultural fields, defensive walls, canals, road networks, clusters of dwellings. This discovery showed that the Maya world was far more densely populated than previously thought. Some academic estimates suggest that as many as 10 million people may have lived in the Maya lowlands alone. That represents a population density comparable to major European cities of the same period. What's interesting here is this: Maya cities were not made up of dense stone blocks like Rome or Athens. Instead, they were more spread out and integrated with their environment. Urban areas and agricultural land were interwoven. The forest was not completely destroyed, it was carefully managed and transformed. Artificial water reservoirs, rainwater collection systems, terrace farming. Sustaining a large population in a rainforest was no easy task, but Maya engineering made it possible. These cities were independent kingdoms, each one had its own dynasty. A long-standing political and military rivalry existed between Tikal and Calakmul that lasted for centuries. On stelae, stone monuments, the victories of kings, their alliances, and the enemies they captured were recorded. These metropolises were not only religious centers, they were also hubs of diplomacy, propaganda, and warfare. By the 800s AD, many of the major cities were suddenly abandoned. However, there is an important distinction here. The Maya people did not disappear. It was the urban centers that collapsed. Possible causes include prolonged drought, excessive population pressure, deforestation, political instability, and civil war. Climate data shows that severe droughts occurred during the 9th century. For cities that depended on water reservoirs, this could have been devastating. Imagine a metropolis, tens of thousands of people, water supplies shrinking, food production declining, kings unable to provide solutions, and people slowly begin to leave the city. Today, millions of people of Maya descent continue to live in Guatemala, Mexico, and Belize. The cities disappeared, but the culture survived. The metropolises beneath the forest reveal just how complex human civilization can be, and perhaps the most impressive part is this. These cities remained hidden under nature for 1,000 years, until laser technology brought them back into the light. In the Maya world, time was not just the sum of passing days. It was sacred, it was alive, it was cyclical. The calendar we use today represents time as a straight line, past, present, and future. In the Maya understanding, time was a wheel. It turned, completed cycles, and began again. For this reason, their calendar was not just for keeping records of dates. It was a vital tool for agriculture, politics, warfare, and rituals. The Maya time system consisted of 3 main components. 1. Tzolk'in, a 260-day sacred calendar. 2. Haab, a 365-day solar calendar. 3. Long count, a system for tracking long periods of time. Together, these 3 structures formed a highly sophisticated calendrical system. The 260-day Tzolk'in calendar was based on a combination of 20-day names and 13 numbers. 20 times 13 equals 260 days. Each day had both a numerical and a symbolic identity. For example, if someone was born on a day like Eta Jor, it was believed to carry spiritual and destiny-related significance. This calendar was especially used for divination, priestly rituals, coronations of rulers, the start of wars. The exact reason for the 260-day cycle is still debated. However, it is thought to be linked to human gestation periods and agricultural cycles. The Haab calendar consisted of 365 days. 18 months times 20 days equals 360 days, plus 5 unlucky days. Wayeb. During the Wayeb period, order was believed to break down, and the boundary between the spirit world and the human world was thought to become thinner. People acted cautiously during this time and avoided making important decisions. This calendar was used to determine planting times for agriculture, seasonal transitions, annual ceremonies. When the Tzolk'in and Haab calendars worked together, they formed a calendar round lasting 52 Haab years. The same day combination would repeat after 52 years. This cycle was roughly equivalent to a human lifetime. The most striking part of the Maya calendar system is the long count. This system measured time linearly in large cycles. It was based on a base 20 vigesimal numerical system. Units: 1 kin equals 1 day, 1 yuanal equals 20 days, 1 ton equals 360 days, 1 katun equals 7,200 days, 1 baktun equals 144,000 days. The most widely discussed date is 13.0.0.0, which corresponds to December 21st, 2012 in our calendar. However, this was not an apocalypse, but rather the completion of a cycle. Just as December 31st marks the end of a year without ending the world, the 13th baktun represented the same idea. The Maya calendar was closely connected to the sky. The movements of Venus were especially important. The Venus cycle lasts approximately 584 days, and Maya astronomers calculated this with remarkable accuracy. In addition, solar eclipses, lunar cycles, equinoxes were all recorded in their calendar systems. At the Tzolk'in pyramid in Chichen Itza, the serpent shadow that appears during the equinoxes demonstrates how solar movements were integrated into architecture. This was not just architecture, it was time encoded in stone. The Maya system was base 20, vigesimal, and the most critical point, they independently used the concept of zero. A shell-shaped symbol represented zero. This made it possible to perform complex date calculations. Long count dates were carved into stone monuments called stelae. A king's accession to the throne was not just a political event, it was placed within a cosmic cycle. Time itself was a source of legitimacy for rulership. In the Maya understanding, time does not move forward, it repeats. Destruction was not an end, but the beginning of rebirth. When a cycle ended, there was no panic, but an expectation of renewal. For this reason, the calendar was not just a system of calculation, it was a worldview. For them, the universe was rhythmic. Human life was a small, yet meaningful vibration within that rhythm. Starting a war, crowning a king, building a temple, all of these had to align with the correct cosmic moment. Doing the right thing at the wrong time was more dangerous than doing the wrong thing at the right time. In 2012, the idea of a Maya apocalypse spread around the world. However, Maya inscriptions contain no reference to the end of the world. On the contrary, some texts point to dates far into the future. This shows that their understanding of time was open-ended. The Maya calendar was not a prediction of catastrophe. It was a mathematical expression of cosmic order. And perhaps the most remarkable fact is this. In the middle of a rainforest, without metal tools or telescopes, they observed the sky thousands of years ago and measured time with such systematic precision. This was not just astronomy. It was one of the most disciplined efforts of the human mind to understand the universe. Today, writing the number 0 takes only a few seconds. But throughout human history, 0 was one of the most difficult concepts to grasp. Because 0 does not represent something, it represents nothing. And symbolizing nothing is one of the highest levels of abstract thinking. The Maya civilization was among the first societies to use 0 as an independent mathematical value. This usage dates back at least to the 4th century AD and can be clearly seen on stone monuments. Maya mathematics was not base 10, but base 20, a vigesimal system. Numbers were written using two basic symbols. A dot equals 1, a bar equals 5. This system was arranged vertically. The lowest position represented units, the one above it 20s, and above that 400s. However, in calendar calculations, the third position was adjusted to 360 instead of 400. This was because they modeled the solar year as approximately 360 days. This is exactly where 0 comes into play. If a position had no value, a symbol was needed to represent that place. The Maya represented this absence with a shell-shaped glyph. This did not simply mean nothing, it was a mathematical placeholder. The long count calendar system could not function without 0. An example date, 13.0.0.0.0.0. The zeros here indicate that the respective time units have been completed. Without a symbol for 0, this level of chronological precision would not have been possible. Thanks to this system, Maya priest-astronomers were able to calculate timelines spanning hundreds of years, record the cycles of celestial bodies, align the reigns of kings with cosmic time. To measure time, they needed 0. The concept of 0 emerged independently in different parts of the world. In Mesopotamia, placeholder symbols existed, but 0 as a true numerical value developed later. In India, the mathematical use of 0 became systematized between the 5th and 7th centuries AD. The Maya example is a completely independent development from the Old World. This is strong evidence of advanced mathematical abstraction in the Americas. For the Maya, 0 was not just an empty value. It represented the completion of a cycle. It was the threshold of a new beginning. In the Maya world, the sky was not just a view to be observed. It was a text to be read. Every star, every planet, every eclipse was a sign. Living in the middle of the rainforest, this society systematically observed the sky without telescopes or metal optical instruments, and recorded it over centuries. In Maya culture, astronomy stood at the intersection of science and religion. Priests were also astronomers. Observation was also a form of worship. At the center of Maya astronomy stood the brightest planet, Venus. Venus appears in two distinct phases, as the morning star and the evening star. Because of its brightness, it can be easily observed with the naked eye. But what truly made it important was its regular cycle. The synodic cycle of Venus is approximately 584 days. Maya astronomers calculated this period with extraordinary accuracy. One of the most detailed records of this can be found in the Dresden Codex. This codex presents tables showing the rising and setting periods of Venus. The morning phase, when Venus reappears in the sky, was considered especially critical. According to some inscriptions, the timing of wars, captive rituals, and political actions could be aligned with the position of Venus. For this reason, Venus was not just a celestial body, it was a political signal. In Maya cities, there were architectural structures closely linked to astronomy. El Caracol stands out with its circular design. It is believed that its windows and openings were aligned with specific astronomical events, with some studies suggesting orientations toward particular rising points of Venus. The Tzolk'in pyramid at Chichen Itza, on the other hand, is aligned with the movements of the sun. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, the play of light and shadow on the staircase railings creates the illusion of a serpent descending. This is not merely aesthetic, it is symbolism built with astronomical awareness. Stone was transformed into a tool for tracking time. Maya astronomy was not limited to Venus. The solar year was calculated at approximately 365 days, and the Haab calendar was based on this. Agricultural production, planting and harvesting, was organized according to the solar cycle. Lunar cycles were also carefully tracked. The phases of the moon, eclipses, and periodic patterns were recorded in inscriptions. Some Maya texts contain eclipse tables. These tables include calculations used to predict solar and lunar eclipses at specific intervals. While there was no modern physical explanation in the scientific sense, their observational accuracy was remarkably high. This astronomical precision was supported by advanced mathematics. Their base 20 numerical system and the concept of zero made it possible to record long-term cycles. Thanks to the long count system, dates could be projected thousands of years into the past and the future. The relationship between the Venus cycle, 584 days, and the solar year, 365 days, was also calculated. 5 Venus cycles are approximately equal to 8 solar years. 5 times 584 equals 2,920 days. 8 times 365 equals 2,920 days. This synchronization demonstrates how systematic Maya astronomy was. This was not just observation, it was mathematical modeling. Maya kings associated themselves with the celestial order. A king's accession to the throne was not an arbitrary day. It had to be a cosmically appropriate one. The dates recorded on stelae did not only document political events, they also indicated the place of those events within universal time. If Venus was in a certain position, it could be interpreted as a sign of victory. If an eclipse period was approaching, rituals would be intensified. The sky was the kingdom's calendar. Such detailed astronomical records could not have been the work of a single generation. There was a tradition of observation passed down over centuries. Priest-astronomers tracked horizon points, recorded the rising and setting positions of celestial bodies, tabulated cycles, corrected deviations. This system was refined through experience. The sky changes every night, yet its cycles repeat. Maya wisdom was based on understanding the mathematics of that repetition. Modern studies in the history of astronomy show that Maya observations were remarkably accurate. In particular, their records of the Venus cycle are highly consistent for naked eye observations. Maya astronomy was comparable to medieval European observations, yet it developed completely independently. In the middle of the rainforest, under a sky free from light pollution, they patiently observed the heavens over thousands of nights. This was not a coincidence. It was systematic cosmic accounting. For them, the sky was not distant. It was orderly, it was calculable, and every calculation could guide life on Earth. In the Maya world, blood was not just a biological fluid, it was the essence of life, a carrier of spiritual power, and a means of communication with the gods. According to Maya cosmology, the universe existed thanks to the sacrifices of the gods. Therefore, humans were expected to offer blood to maintain cosmic order. This belief formed the basis of ritual practices, often referred to as a blood cult. However, there is an important distinction here. Maya sacrifice rituals were not limited to large-scale human sacrifices. The most common practice was bloodletting ceremonies performed by the elite class. Kings and queens would shed their own blood during rituals. The tongue, earlobes, and especially the underside of the tongue, and sometimes even the genital area, were pierced using obsidian blades or thorned ropes. This painful act symbolized personal sacrifice and divine legitimacy. The blood was dripped onto paper-like bark and then burned. The rising smoke was believed to summon the spirits of ancestors and the gods. In inscriptions and reliefs, a vision serpent appears during these rituals. This symbolic figure represents the idea that blood offerings open a spiritual gateway. Bloodletting was considered a necessary duty for the continuation of the kingdom. To understand Maya rituals, it is necessary to set aside modern ethical judgments. In their worldview, blood did not represent destruction. It represented balance. If the gods initiated the universe through their own sacrifices, then humans were expected to give in return. This was not a system of fear, but a system of reciprocity. Sacrifice was a form of exchange to maintain order. The sky continues its cycles, the sun rises, rain falls. And humans believed in the sacred role of blood to sustain this order. In the centers of Maya cities, near the temples, there were long and narrow stone courts. These were not ordinary sports facilities. They were ritual spaces where a cosmic struggle was enacted. The Maya ball game, known today as Pok-ta-Pok, had different variations across Mesoamerica. In the Maya world, this game was not just a physical competition. It was a reenactment of a mythological narrative. The court typically consisted of two parallel walls. Players tried to send a heavy rubber ball to the opposing side without using their hands, mostly using their hips, knees, or elbows. The ball was extremely heavy, which made the game both difficult and dangerous.
In the Maya sacred text, Popol Vuh, the hero twins are described as playing a ball game against the lords of the underworld. This story clearly reveals the symbolic meaning of the game. The ball game represented the struggle between life and death. The court was interpreted as a gateway to the underworld. For this reason, the game was not merely entertainment. It was a ritual, a physical expression of a cosmic drama. The movement of the ball may have symbolized the cycles of celestial bodies. Some researchers suggest that the game was associated with the movements of the sun or Venus. The reason the ball game is often described as deadly is its connection, in some cases, to sacrificial rituals. Stone reliefs depict decapitated players, particularly from the late Classic and post-Classic periods. However, an important distinction must be made. Not every game ended in death. In some ritual matches, there is iconographic evidence suggesting that the losing side, or according to other interpretations, even the winning side, was sacrificed. It is not possible to make a definitive generalization on this matter. The Great Ball Court at Chichen Itza is one of the largest examples in Mesoamerica. The carvings on its walls clearly depict scenes of decapitation. This demonstrates that, at least in certain contexts, the game was closely intertwined with sacrificial practices. The ball game could also serve as a diplomatic and political tool. Tensions between city-states could sometimes be resolved through symbolic matches instead of warfare. Games involving the elite functioned as displays of power and instruments of propaganda. At the same time, the game was a public event that brought together different segments of society. Matches held on major ceremonial days were conducted alongside religious rituals. Players wore specialized protective belts and knee pads. Due to the weight of the rubber ball, serious injuries were possible. For this reason, the game was a fusion of physical courage and spiritual devotion. In the 8th to 9th centuries AD, monument building stopped, populations declined, and major Maya cities were abandoned. This was not extinction, but a political and urban collapse. Geological data shows prolonged droughts. Reduced rainfall led to water shortages, agricultural decline, and famine. Though this alone does not fully explain the collapse, population growth caused deforestation and soil degradation. Environmental damage combined with drought intensified the crisis. The Maya world consisted of city-states, and rising warfare increased instability. Resource scarcity intensified competition, disrupting trade and alliances. Maya rulers were seen as guarantors of cosmic order. Prolonged drought, failed harvests, or missing celestial signs could weaken their divine legitimacy. The sudden halt of stelae may reflect not only economic but also ideological collapse, leading to a shift towards smaller, scattered settlements. Modern scholarship agrees there was no single cause of collapse. Drought, environmental stress, warfare, political fragmentation, and ideological breakdown likely combined. While some regions were abandoned, northern cities like Chichen Itza rose in the post-classic period, showing the collapse was not uniform and Maya culture persisted. When we look at the temples buried beneath the jungle today, it's easy to imagine a dramatic apocalypse, but the truth is far more complex. The Maya civilization did not vanish overnight. It transformed under pressures it could not fully adapt to. Cities fell silent. Dynasties came to an end, yet their knowledge did not disappear. Their calendars, writing system, astronomy, and cultural legacy continued to live on, reshaped but not erased. And perhaps this is the most striking truth about the Maya. A civilization that calculated the skies, used zero, and carved time into stone was far too complex to be explained by a single collapse.